welcome. This is Shanna today for Pixie Dust Designs, and today we're going to talk all about card challenges. I will be focusing on the Pixie Dust Designs monthly color challenge, but this can really relate to any card challenge out there, and we'll even talk a little about combining different challenges in one project. So let's get started. Today I'm going to actually feature the Love Paper Pad and the Valentine's Puppy Stamps and Pixie Cuts from Pixie Dust Designs. Both are super versatile products in the Pixie Dust Designs catalog, and I absolutely love how quickly this project came together. So the paper comes double-sided, and I selected 3 different ones to pull together in today's project. I wasn't quite sure which side of each I was going to use out the gate, but I did know I liked how the tones went together. The perk of using a paper pad that's already all coordinating is you don't have to worry about color matching. They all go together. As a split-minute decision, I decided to use this sheet of ephemera that is on the back side of the paper pad instead of the Valentine's puppies. So whereas I thought I was going to color some puppies for the card, which you still absolutely could and it would be adorable, I decided to use that adorable bunny in his little top hat as the focal point for my card, as you'll see later in the video. So I'm just starting with a basic card panel, but this one is going to be cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4 because I knew I wanted a colored card base that I wanted to mat out my project. So I cut this panel slightly smaller than an A2 size card. Next, it was time to fussy cut out this adorable little bunny. I actually enjoy fussy cutting. Some tips I can give you if it's not truly your favorite is to cut out the shape roughly like I just did on screen, and then use a pair of small fine tip scissors to just slowly go around. I find it is easier to cut with a white margin around the entire image, especially on images that have things like balloons where I'm cutting with the string. If I was to cut actually on the lines, that string would be almost impossible not to cut through. But when you're doing a margin, like if you were actually die cutting the image out, it is not near as difficult, and it's a little more forgiving in cutting super straight and perfect. So I am just cutting all the way around this. I'll save you the hassle of watching me cut it in real time, and we'll fast forward just a little bit. And you can see that bunny is now all completely cut out. I'm setting him just trying to position him on that panel we cut out earlier, and now I want to match out the papers I want to use. So one of the papers actually has that exact bunny from the paper pad on it, since they are meant to coordinate. I definitely wanted to use some of that. Then I went back and forth a little bit on the other 2 prints. Ultimately, I decided to go with this plaid, and these I'm just cutting down to 1 inch by 3 1/2 inches because I'm actually pulling inspiration from another challenge. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that you could even combine card challenges when you're doing this. So Pixie Dust Designs does a color challenge where they give you a color palette to pick from, and as long as you follow the rules and use Pixie Dust Designs products in the challenge, you can enter it for a chance at winning the prize. There are other card challenges as well that are more of a sketch challenge, and I pulled a sketch challenge out that I also pulled inspiration from for this card. I will link below to that blog post on my blog so you can go ahead and check out what that sketch is as well if you're interested. But for the purpose of the video, we're going to focus on the colors. But just know, sometimes you can pull inspiration from multiple challenges to create one card. And as long as it doesn't say in the rules, you can't double dip, as in use one card for more than one entry and other things, you were more than able to do it. So these rectangles now just get evenly spread out. I had 2 sizes to pick from because those strips cut down. I didn't know if I wanted the bigger size or the littler size to start, so I tried both. That is kind of the beauty of not gluing everything down right away. You kind of manipulate your scene until it's what you want. So I didn't like how short those were. I decided I wanted more of the pattern paper to show, so I went back to those longer strips, and now I'm rearranging them in a different order. I, for my symmetry's sake, chose to put the pattern paper that had that bunny on it farther away from where the bunny was going to sit on top of the paper. So that is going to be all the way over on the right with the bunny more angled on the left. Now all that's left is to glue them in place and then magically move on to our focal image and sentiment. I did pull back in that Valentine Puppies stamp set for my sentiment because there's some super cute sentiments on it that I wanted to pair with this bunny. So I decided to ground the bunny with some red cardstock to pop out that red that's in the paper, and wanted to center him over this love you sentiment. I thought it fit perfectly right underneath that bench and gave enough room for that paper to still kind of create a base or a ground for the bench. So this was me just kind of placing it, making sure I wasn't going to cut it too short. And then I'm going to bring it over to my Misty so I can heat emboss that sentiment. So when I'm heat embossing, I make sure to prep my cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. This one is one of the brush type. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment using an embossing ink. I tend to double stamp my sentiments just to make sure I have good coverage with that ink, but I didn't on this one because it actually stamps really smoothly the first time. So I'm heat embossing it in white. This is Arctic White from Ink on 3, but and then I'm just going to heat set it. I love white embossing powder in general on cardstock. It tends to be my most used embossing powder in my stash, but it really pops, especially on a darker cardstock for me, so that sentiment will be super easy to read and stand out on my card. Next, I just trimmed it down into more of a sentiment strip style, making sure not to cut off the end of that Y. I just made sure it was cut wide enough. And at this point, I'm going to bring it back and trim off some of the other end, but I needed to make sure I left enough so it still crossed across enough of the card that that bunny could sit on it, and it looked fine with the strips of paper. So I decided just to kind of mark with my thumbnail where I thought I wanted to cut it. Sometimes I use a pencil, sometimes I use my nail, sometimes I just eyeball it, and sometimes I measure. It really depends on my mood and what is within arm's reach when I'm crafting. Can anyone else relate? I wanted to shape it into a pennant shape, so I'm going to cut a small slip kind of center line and then cut up from the corners on each side. Helps keep that triangle shape a little more symmetrical. Not perfect, doesn't have to be perfect, but it does help. And then I'm going to use some foam tape and start putting this all together. I wanted the sentiment and the bunny popped up, which means I can glue the bunny's, I was going to say the bunny feet, but the legs of the bench right on top, so I'm centering it right over that sentiment. And then I'm going to take foam tape and adhere the rest of that to the card. So I'm going to come underneath the sentiment panel and all over that piece of ephemera. If you have watched some of my videos in the past, you know I have a love-hate relationship with foam tape, and getting the backing paper is not my strong suit when it comes to peeling it off. So I edited some of that out for you all so you didn't have to watch me struggle, but know that I covered the entire back side of that image with foam tape so it is all level and sturdy when it goes in that envelope. All that's left now is to take that 4" by 5 1/4" card panel and mount it onto an A2 card base. I chose red, the same exact red actually I used for that sentiment strip, as a top folding card base, and then just glued this panel right to the center front of it. That finishes off my card. Be sure to check the description box below for more information about the Pixie Dust Color Challenge. It happens every month and the theme changes a little bit. And then be sure to check out my blog post if you want more information on challenges in general. All right, thanks for joining me, everybody, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.